Okay, I'm delighted to be joined now by Stephanie Price. Steph is the principal lawyer at West Heidelberg Community Legal, which is a community legal service that services the disadvantaged members of the Banyule community. West Heidelberg also holds the enviable title of being the oldest and longest running health justice partnership in Australia. So thanks for being with us today, Steph.
No worries at all. I mean, it's unique, particularly because of its length. So West Heidelberg Community Legal Service and Banyule Community Health had been co-located since their inception, which was in the mid-70s. So they existed together and side by side for 40 years and then merged to become a single entity about 5 years ago. So that's a sort of unique organisational structure for a health justice partnership in Australia. So a legal service that's actually part of a community health service rather than the more traditional sort of outreach or partnership type model. So it's unique in that sense. And we're really proud of the work that we're able to do, with the community. It's a community that experiences, particularly high levels of vulnerability and disadvantage, particularly in the area directly surrounding where it's located, which is in West Heidelberg. Parts of the Banyule local government area, are quite well off, but certainly there's sections that rank really amongst the poorest in Australia. Well, yeah, I mean, a health justice partnership makes a lot of sense. It recognises that the cause of people's both legal and health problems can be interrelated, and so the response to people's legal and health problems should be similarly integrated. So we operate on a model which really has as its core hope that any professional within the health service, so it could be from the GP to the lawyer to the OT to the social worker, will have the confidence to see the clients as whole people and see their issues in a holistic manner, and will be able to respond to the sort of breadth of difficulties that people come in the door with. So it's rarely the case, certainly in our community, that people have a single issue that if you sort that out, they'll be on track. It's usually there's a number of things going on, and the interrelation is very complex, and you need a number of people and people with different skill sets coming together around that person to sort of do the best that you can to ameliorate the effects of disadvantage. So I don't think that we in many cases are able to resolve the causes of legal and health inequalities, but we do our best to ameliorate the worst effects of those.
We're seeing a rise of different types of legal technologies and innovations coming into the community justice and not-for-profit organisation sectors to try and address some of those most pressing issues. What are your views on the role that legal technology has to play when it comes to providing those types of client supports?
Yeah, I mean, I think technology has a role to play in everything that we do today, so it necessarily has a role to play in the sort of work that community lawyers and the access to justice sector does. I mean, I think potentially at the moment the most important role that it can play is in supporting the work that lawyers do, ensuring that we're able to do the things that we do in the most effective and efficient way possible so that we're able to help more people. Certainly I don't think the community legal sector has a particular reputation for being hyper efficient. We've not necessarily been supported in the past to have the sort of infrastructure that that perhaps the private sector does in terms of the sorts of computer systems and databases that we're working with. And I think that that's really actually quite key, that if we were supported to improve our tech capacity, that we'd spend less time on that sort of work and really more time on this sort of key face-to-face work. I mean, it's an absolute cliche, but if you ask anyone in a community organisation what's the barrier to anything, they're going to say resources. So I'll say resources, and I'll say resources again. But it's as I said, it's resourcing at that sort of infrastructure level. So, you've got to have a decent computer system, you've got to have a decent database. Ideally, you'd have computers that enable you to leave the office. You'd have mobile tech options. So you need to be sort of resourced at that level. But then it's the sort of people level as well. So, resourcing to enable, small or even, larger community organisations to employ people with the particular skill set that I think you do need to really grab those opportunities in a way that is genuinely helpful for the people that we're supporting. I mean, lawyers and other people who work in the sector will have ideas about how we could do things better, but there are people who are, trained, skilled and experienced in how to make those ideas a tech reality. And that's absolutely not on the sort of cards for many community legal organisations to be sort of employing those type of people, within our organisations. Any support that you can get from larger and better resourced organisations is really important, and it's something that we rely on. So of course you'd sort of jump at that opportunity. I guess that what would be important from our perspective is the sort of sustainability of support. So I mean, we don't have loads of experience rolling out tech solutions, but we've sort of dabbled a little bit and sort of poked our head into asking questions to other organisations that have. And I guess one of the questions that I come up with, and I haven't necessarily had the most satisfactory answer yet, is that sort of longevity of, look, you've rolled that out, and what were the results, and what did it look like a year after you sort of launched the app or the page, and what was the sort of response showing you, and what was the flexibility in being able to rely on those resources again to tweak it to fit the needs of the community. I mean, I think one of the real advantages of the Community Legal Centre is our responsiveness to our local community, and that ability to flex and move with the needs of the community is really important for us. And so I think the same approach has to be taken to any tech responses to community need. That we'd have to have the support in an ongoing way to be able to flex and move. Yeah, I mean, I think really it's almost like a background question, but I think any forays into this area have to really be founded on an understanding that these advances have to be seen as a sort of an additional or an ancillary to the existing traditional services. So I think that it's really important that anybody working in this space understands that tech solutions shouldn't ever be seen as replacing the sort of face-to-face support that people need. So I think if you have that sort of understanding, you necessarily have what I think you need to have, which is a bit of a initial cynical approach to tech as a solution to vulnerable clients. I think there are currently, and there will be in the future, tech solutions that do help vulnerable clients experiencing multiple disadvantages. But I think if you go into it assuming that they won't, I think you're going to build something that proves itself. You've got to prove that this is actually going to help people's lives. I think that lots of our clients experience digital advances in a way that entrenches their disadvantage, not only because they're excluded from some of the good parts of digital advances, but because digital advances necessarily mean that the people who have the most access to sort of knowledge and resources in society are better able to sort of use their power, and people who have less access to knowledge and resources are less able to. And an example in my practice in particular is around tenancy and landlords' rights. Most of the advances in the sort of access to justice around tech and tenancy law has really just enabled landlords to be better able to exercise their rights vis-a-vis tenants. Theoretically, tenants have more rights now, are more able to serve their landlords notices, because you can serve notices now on email, whereas you didn't used to be in the past. But we know that tenants don't really serve their notices, serve landlords notices. So in fact, the tech advance has really just empowered the people that already had power in society. So I think recognising that is really critical. I mean, we've got an exciting new project in the cards, which we'll be sort of implementing next year, which is about cross-sector work between the legal service and the early childhood work that goes on quite wonderfully at Banyule Community Health. And that's a really, I think, innovative approach to considering the whole needs of families that come into the service. So we frequently see parents coming to the legal service with their children. It's not a great place for kids to be often. And there are other really amazing services at Banyule Community Health that do amazing things with kids. And so what we want to try and do is bring those together to fully support families. And absolutely, as part of that, we think there's potentially, you know, a tech element to lining up, you know, those two services. Possibly bringing in other people from the community that have, you know, relevant skills and experience, you know, retired teachers that could be plugged into a system that, you know, lets them know when there are kids or parents around and you know, they can sign up to come in. And in addition, in the sort of planning for that, we thought that it would be, the service would operate much better if the practitioners within our health justice partnership had a better idea of what the other workers were doing. And there's potentially a tech solution to that. I mean, there's amazing and multivariate work going on at a health justice partnership like Banyule Community Health, as there is as other organisations. But one of the difficulties you face is just the, you know, the siloisation of your knowledge. You just don't know what other people are doing. If you could get a sense of what other people are doing, we'd be much better able to sort of support our clients to take in the full, you know, breadth of what's available to them. And there's really, you know, that screams tech solution to me. So those are some of the things we've got going on.
Fantastic. Well, those are some really great insights. Thank you so much for coming on today.
No worries at all.